Hi, it's Amy Powers here to share a project for the Eileen Hull's Comfort and Joy event. Um, and it's to make Christmas postage stamps, watercolored. We'll be using, you could either use Eileen Hull's snail mail die, which is this one, which makes this kind of postage stamps, or the slimline one, which makes a row of tickets and this shape of the stamps. This would be really fun. It would be fun to make a lot of Christmas tickets for your projects. So let's get started. So I'm going to share with you a method for watercoloring that was developed by Art Impressions. And you can use Art Impression stamps. That's what I'm going to be using. But if you don't have any Art Impressions stamps, I think you can just look through your stash and find stamps that could work. So what you want to look for are stamps that are the right size, first of all. And don't worry if the image goes off. You can mask off the stamp area. The other thing is you want to look for stamps that don't have a lot of close detail in it. I'll show you one that doesn't work. I shouldn't say it doesn't work, it's just harder. I don't know if you can see this stamp, but it has a lot of small detail close together. So what will happen is when we stamp it, this method, you could stamp it regularly and watercolor it, but when you're using this method of stamping, it will just create sort of a muddy look. Accidentally. So what you don't want is a stamp that has too many close details. But like this stamp here, which is a birdhouse, I don't know if you can see it, that has nice open areas, and it would be fairly easy to watercolor in this method. So let me show you with this stamp how we set up the stamp for this method. So what we're going to do is actually to ink this stamp with two colors of Tombow markers. And I don't think I'm using the right brown that they normally use at Art Impressions, but this is the brown that I have. And I think it works just fine. There's something that happens when you mix these two colors, this blue and a brown, that makes a really nice gray that's not flat because it's two colors that make it. And it kind of resembles a pencil mark, I guess, in watercolor. And it goes away when you're watercoloring. So unlike stamping an image in ink, even like a no line ink, and then watercoloring it, we're going to use a watercolor to stamp the image and then use that color to sort of start coloring our image. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to start with the blue, and what I'm going to do is I'm using the side of the brush marker like this, and I'm trying to get all of those areas, and you can sort of see those areas come out. Okay? And then I'm going to take the brown marker and I'm going to do the same thing. Now, if I were to stamp this right onto my project, it would actually be too much color for too much of this watercolor on that image. It would affect the image. So what you do is you stamp. They call it stamping it off. You stamp it off once or twice so that you're actually using the third iteration for your project. So and you want to stamp it off onto a watercolor paper. And I'm going to stamp it off once and take a look. And that's good, but it's still, do you see that area there? That tells me that's too much ink. So I'm going to stamp it off again. Okay, and you see how it's getting lighter. Now I think I'm ready to stamp it on my project. And what I'm going to do is actually huff on it with my breath, and that will sort of reactivate some of that, the ink that has dried on it. Okay, and I think I'm going to stamp that right here. And that is perfect. So I have my water, I have a zero brush, and a number 4 brush. And I have a pencil. And off to the side here, I just have, this is just a glass tile, like a bathroom tile, that I use for my palette. I also have a stamp that I'm going to use in a different way, and that's this tree. I'm going to add it to the side of this house. I went ahead and masked off all of the areas that I want to keep white so that I can paint in this area and make the postage stamp colored while keeping the borders white. This I used Spellbinder's tape that they have. I guess this is a 1/4 inch. Let me take a look. Yes, this is a 1/4 inch tape, which was perfect for masking off those areas. You can also use just like Post-it notes or Post-it tape and tape off each area and do the stamps all individually. But I like the idea of working with this project, all of it together. So I'm going to start showing you how the first step, which is, and I think I'll work, let me bring you down a little bit. Okay, so I have my water off the camera, and I also have my palette off to the side too. And I hope the shadows aren't going to be too harsh, but I don't know if I have the right setup for this. I've never done this before on camera, but I hope it works out. The first thing I'm going to do is just grab some water. I'm going to pinch it off because I don't want too much water on my brush. So I'm putting water on my brush, and then I'm pinching it off so that I don't have too much water on there. And then I'm just going to start here with my snowman, and I'm just going to pull some of that color out of those lines. This does two things. It starts to give your project some dimension, but also it pulls out that color so it doesn't muddy your color when you add it and add color where you don't want it. Also softens the lines so that it doesn't look like a rubber stamp anymore. Okay, now I'm ready to add some color. So I'm going to add some blue to my palette. I'm also going to add the green that I'm going to use for the hat. I'm going to add some red that I'll use for the scarf. And another blue that I'm going to use for the buttons. Oh, and I need a little orange for his nose. I have an orange, this is 905. That's a little bit too, I don't know, reddish orange. I'm just going to add a little bit of yellow to that and mix that on my palette. Okay. So I'm adding a little bit of water, pinching it off, and then grabbing the red. And I'll start with the scarf. And what you want to do is just paint section by section. You don't ever cross those lines. And you know, I also want to say that I'm not an expert at this method of painting at all. I'm just learning myself, but I just wanted to share it with you, especially with filling these little stamps. It's a fun way to do that. pretty happy with that. I'm going to wash off my brush. Whenever you use red, you have to be really careful to make sure you wash it all out. And I'm going to move to the green for his hat. Now, because his hat is round, I'm going to put the color on the ends like this. Bring it out a little bit. Then I'm going to clean off my brush, pinch it off, and then I'm going to use that color and bring it towards the center. And that will give you like a little bit of shading so that it seems, do you see how now that seems dimensional, right? It's harder with these smaller projects to do that, but I think it makes a difference. And now this part's going to be darker over here and darker over here. And I can sort of do the same thing, but a little darker on the rim. Now I'll get his nose, and I'll just mix a little of that orange with the yellow over here. And then I don't want to make, I want to make sure I don't have that brush too wet, because it's just the tiniest little carrot nose. Okay, I think that's good. Next thing I want to do is add a red band on that hat. We're getting there. And then his buttons. Okay. I didn't add any brown to the palette, but I do need a little bit of brown for, I'll use this warm brown 947 for his stick arms. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this blue and I'm going to add a shadow here and here, here, under there, there. Now I'm going to add some water to my brush, pinch it off, and I'm just going to bring that out a little bit. I'm careful not to touch that red because it will bleed. You see how that sort of makes him very dimensional, right? Okay, I'll do the same thing to his face. Now I want to bring some blue right under his hat, because there will be a shadow there. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of blue to the ground. Okay, the next thing I want to show you is how this is sort of a different way of stamping down here. For this one, I had the stamp on a block, and I stamped that. I didn't stamp it off, but what you do is you color the whole image with the green or whatever color you're using, and then stamp directly on, not stamping off, but directly onto the project. And now I'm going to show you what we do with that kind of stamping. So you would do this, you do this kind of stamping, the blue and the brown for the outline stamps, and then color it from the palette. But for this kind of stamp, you stamp it directly to the project. And what you do is just touch it with your water on your brush, just to soften those lines so that it doesn't look like a stamp. It looks like a watercolor. And you're just touching those areas. And you can add, you can use the paint on your brush to add in areas that need more color. But we're going to be adding snow to this tree, so I'm not too worried about it. Okay. So I would color all of these other stamps in the same way, and I do want to show you the house. That'll be a little bit different because we're going to add the tree to it after we've painted the house. So let me show you that one. First thing we do is always to pull out the color and sort of try and add it where you know there would be shadow. There would be shadow behind this sort of part of the house that moves forward. There'd also be shadow under this roof line. Just barely touching this line with a really almost dry brush. It doesn't have a lot of water on it. What you really want to make sure that you do is control how much water you're using. And you're not using a lot of water. These are small projects. And you don't want them to get away from you, and they can if you add too much water. I'm mixing a little brown with my red on the side so that the chimneys aren't too red. They're a little bit more like a brick red. I think I normally paint with the project so close to me, and in order to film it, I have to have them a little bit further away from me, and it's really affecting my ability to paint this well. But I hope you still can appreciate and see how we do this. So I'm washing off my brush, getting a little green. The other thing to keep in mind when you're doing these projects is to use the same palette for the whole project, and that will make the same colors. That'll make it cohesive. They'll look like they're all the same project because you've used the same colors for them. So this is the same green as the snowman's hat over there. Now I'm going to do a trick that I learned on the Art Impressions Way, actually, from Kim. She taught a class that I took. I'll show you first before I do this. I took a class, online class, for this mini journal. It was so much fun to make. It's so tiny, do you see? Anyway, this house is in that project. So that's the one I'm going to show you. So in order for the roof to look like it has snow on it, you take a little blue and you just sort of add a curve to those ends there. And that will make it look, it's like a trick to make it look like the roof is covered with snow. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit of a shadow down here. Also, I'm going to take some of that blue and then just make a little triangle here somehow that sets back that door. Okay. I'm going to take a little bit of that brown that I used, and I'm just going to color in this area. I'm going to keep this house all white. But I do want to add a little bit of color there. Okay. Another thing that really makes this house charming is if you put a nice golden light inside. It makes it look like somebody's at home by the fire. So let me get my yellow, and what I'm going to do is use the I'm going to use the ink or the watercolor directly from the marker, and I'm just going to fill in that half circle window, and here I'm just going to add a rectangle there and a rectangle there, and that makes it look like it's a two-paned window there. It's okay if it's not perfect. I don't really like that brown that I just added, but it's okay. Alright, now I'm going to take my pencil and I'm just going to add in the doorknob there. Also, when I stamped this, I think I drew in that little walkway with pencil. That's the great thing about this. The pencil looks like it's the same color as what you've stamped off, so you can easily add detail with the pencil. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is to add the trees on either side. So the same way that we inked this tree over here, I'm going to do the tree on that side and this other side. And you'll be able to see how this works. It's really kind of fun. Okay, so I've already got it masked off. So I'm not going to worry about going off or anything. And then I'm going to put that tree there. And then if it didn't ink all the way, you can just ink on top of it. It's okay. This is a different kind of stamping than, stamping a sentiment or another kind of image. It's okay if you get a little bit more of a duplicate image. We can make it work because we're going to add water to it. Okay, and then I'll put this one on this side. Okay, that's good. Okay, now I'm adding water to my brush, and I'm just going to soften those. Same thing over here. Okay, I think that looks sweet. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is add background or sky to all of these. I think they're all going to be sky, yeah. And I'll just do it to the 3 images that we have finished, but then I'll show you how I've finished everything up. So I'm going to use actually this 526 as my sky color. And when you're doing this background thing, you want a bigger brush and more water. Still, you want to be careful that you don't have so much water that it pools, but you want to be able to move that around and so that it's not streaky. Okay, so I'm going to do this one first. I'm going to move it a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to tell you, I'm not good at this. This is the part I struggle with, but I'm just going to put it on kind of like a scribble like that, and then just move it around. And I'm going to go slower when I get too close to the image. It's okay if it goes over the green. The green and the blue can mix, but definitely not that red when I get closer to that chimney. I'm adding water to my brush, and I'm just going to try and move that color so it's not blotchy. I'm not great at this, and sometimes you can do it and you don't have to go to the edge, but because this is a postage stamp, I want to see that. I want to see the edge, so I'm going to go all the way being very careful around that red. Okay. This is really the part I struggle with, but I want to make it a darker blue because I'm going to add snowflakes and I want to be able to see them against that blue. So I'm going to bring that down to about there. So again, you don't have to be as careful around the green. It's okay if it touches the green. But that red you need to be careful with. So I'm not even going to add color. I'm just going to use my brush and just ever so carefully. Okay, good. Okay. And then I can add some shadow down here. Oh, that's too much. Some shadow down there. 1, 2. Okay, we're going to add some snow to that area too, so I think it'll be okay. All right, and I'm going to do the same sky to this tree. I like that it's darker in that corner. Okay. And then finally I'll add some sky behind that snowman. If you add too much water also, even though it's easier to move the color around, if you add too much water it will get underneath your tape too, so you want to be careful of that. You want a nice clean line. And I'm going to be really careful, like I said, around that red. In fact, I think I'm going to leave that right there. Okay. It's okay, it doesn't have to go all the way to it. Well, maybe a little closer. Nice. Okay. Okay. Okay, let me show you how I add snow. So for the snow, I'm going to use Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. You could also use a gel pen if you wanted to. And what you do is you just add a little bit of water to this, clean water. And then I just work in there like that. And I get a paintbrush kind of full of paint. This Bleed Proof White. And then you just dot it on. Like that. I kind of like the look of a... Sorry, I hit the camera. A bigger snowflake. I want to be able to see them, right? I'm going to add a little snow to the top of the chimney there. And then I'm just going to add some here. And you know what? I think I got a little too much blue there, so I'm just going to add some snow. There, it's kind of like an eraser actually. And then let me show you how sweet it is when you add snow to these trees. You just kind of brush it on. Do you know how the snow sort of heaps up on a tree like that? And you just sort of randomly go along, adding snow like that. Really makes a difference. Makes it look so sweet, I think. That's a lot of snow right there, but I think I can make it work. Okay. When it dries, it looks so good. Okay. All right, now I'll do the same thing with this tree. This is the fun part. Okay, and some snow in the sky. Snowing everywhere. Oh, that was a big piece of snow. Okay. I think the problem is my brush doesn't have a tip of snow, it's a whole chunk of snow on the end. Okay. Okay, there are two more things I want to show you before we call this complete. But at first I want to tell you about something sad that happened while I was filling in the background for these other areas. I got the snowman, which I felt really great about, wet, and he bled all over, the red scarf bled all over. So I had to sort of repaint him. I'll tell you how I did it. I used the bleed proof white. It's sort of like a whiteout, and painted over with the bleed proof white the areas where it had bled, and then repainted it and drew in the details that were lost with the pencil. Now the next thing you can do is you can go in with a pencil and bring in any detail that you might have lost. Like I can add in the little bird's legs, I can add in feathers, this kind of thing, right? And then either with the pencil, or you could also use a micron pen. You want to brighten up the face by adding, darkening the eyes. So I'll show you how sweet this makes it look. It really sort of comes alive when you do that. Be careful not to add them too big, and then this area I'm going to darken his mouth. Then the bird's eye. And then the snowman. I already did the deer. I actually did the deer in the micron, and I think it's a little too dark. I think also this part kind of got away with me. I just got a little sloppy and I used too much water, so I'm just going to add a little bit more detail in there, just so that it doesn't look like blobs so much. But this part I'm not so happy with, but anyway. Okay, so now the next thing that you can do, I'm going to pull off the masking very carefully, and then I'll show you the finishing touch. The next thing that you can do is to use a Wink Up Stella or some other kind of glittery pen, and I'm just going to make sure this is flowing very well. You don't want to squeeze it actually on your project, or I can tell you from experience it will make a blob. And then just in certain areas, just add a little bit of snow sparkle. You can do it on the snowflakes like that. Now if you touch red or any other color, you want to brush it off because it does have water on it and it will transfer the color. Just go through, and it doesn't even matter how you do it. Just scribble on some of this glittery magic. Oh, also I lost his mitten in my too much water. Anyway, and so I just drew it back in with a pencil. I'm not an expert at this, but I'm learning and I am enjoying it, and I thought you might like to learn it too and add it to your crafts that you like to do. Okay. Now, if you have any of those stamps that are like the postmarks, or you can add 5 cents or a number on any of these and really make it look even more realistic as a postage stamp. I don't really have a lot of those kinds of stamps, so I'm just going to leave mine like this, and you can keep this together as like just a fun like card front, or you can just use it as an element on your page, or you can cut or tear these off and use the individual stamps in your projects. So anyway, sorry that was such a long video. If you're still here, I appreciate it, and I hope you enjoy this. Happy Thanksgiving. Hey, if you like this project and want to see more like it, let me know by giving me a thumbs up, subscribing, and leaving a comment. Take care.